Ya estamos en vivo.
Muy buenos días. Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure for the Consulate General of Mexico to have today this conversation with the Vice Minister for Trade, Luz Maria de la Mora. Thank you so much for having us also here in Miami. And this particular conversation about USMCA, which is quite important for this region as well. As you know, on July 1st, the USMCA, a trade agreement that modernized the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, came into effect. The first trade agreement had great significance, having multiplied trade relationship between Mexico and Florida, making us the third largest trading partner. As a key player, Mexico is a natural and commercial partner for South Florida due to the geographical proximity and the widespread and extensive commercial industry it shares with Latin America. In 2018, our bilateral trade amounted more than $10 billion. Florida imports vehicles and auto parts manufactured in Mexico, while Mexico purchased goods such as electrical equipment, home appliances, components, chemical products, and solar. NAFTA increased Florida's exports from Mexico above 300%, generating about more than 300,000 jobs in Florida. For Mexico and Florida, maritime trade represents an opportunity to improve the objective of the Mexican government to develop the southern region of the country. Undoubtedly, promoting a stronger port relationship in this area will serve as a catalyst for jobs, promotion, and investment both sides. In order to advance trade facilitation, the coordinator of Ports of Secretary of Communication and Transport of Florida and the Florida Ports Council signed a letter of intent to promote the development of its ports, improving communications and logistics, as well as taking advantage of new technologies and strengthening the institutional relationship that allow the increase of trade exchange and economic development within Mexico and Florida. The enter into effect of USMCA will bring various opportunities, particularly through its new chapters like digital, small business, labor, and environment. We look forward to the expansion of trade, but also development, and particularly the well-being of the people of Mexico and Florida by the enhancement of the trilateral agreement. USMCA enactment will be the beginning of a solid and fruitful relationship between Mexico and Florida. And with no further ado, I really want to introduce now Vice Minister de la Mora. As of December 1st, 2018, she's Vice Minister of Foreign Trade in the Ministry of Economy. She's been the head of the Unit of Economic Relations and International Cooperation in Mexico Foreign Affairs, and head of the International Trade Negotiations Unit in Mexico's Ministry of Economy, as well as head of the representations of Mexico's Economy Ministry before the European Union in Brussels and before ALAD in Montevideo. She served as Economic Counselor at the Embassy of Mexico in Washington, D.C. as part of the NAFTA negotiating. She has been NAFTA Chapters 19 panelist and consultant with the Advisory Committee of the Latin America Division of the World Bank. In the academic field, she has been a visiting researcher of the Woodrow Wilson Center in Washington, D.C., and the Center for the U.S.-Mexico Studies of the University of California at San Diego. She has been affiliated professor in the International Studies Division of CIDE and is the author of the book Apertura con Reciprocidad from 2012. She has been a member of the Mexican Council of International Affairs, COMEXI. She led the We Connect International Program in Mexico and the Mexico chapter of Vital Voices Global Partnership, promoting the development and internationalization of women's business. She holds a bachelor's degree in international relations for Consulado de México, a master in international political economy for Cotton University in Canada, and a PhD in political science for Yale University in the United States. She has also been a Fulbright Scholar of Government of Canada Award holder and CONOCYT Fellow. Muchísimas gracias, subsecretaria, por esta oportunidad y pues la dejo a usted que ahora empecemos este webinar. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Jonathan. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you today. Thanks so much for hosting this webinar for the Miami, Florida area. I very much appreciate the opportunity of being close with you even with this social distancing. But it's great to be able to use technology. USMCA. And what does USMCA bring to the Mexico-Florida and specifically the Miami relationship? I very much appreciate all of the work that you are doing, Jonathan, with the business community in Florida and in Miami specifically, because we believe that there are a huge number of opportunities that USMCA opens for us. So if you allow me, I would like to share with you my screen because I'd like to make a presentation. And then after that, I promise I will be brief but substantive. And after that, I will be very happy to open the floor to a Q&A session. And I will be very happy also to invite you to follow us on our social media, because I think that we have a lot to offer to Florida, to Miami, to open up new opportunities in business, especially at these very challenging times in which we are experiencing COVID-19 and need to recover. So please, Jonathan, just let me know if you can see the screen correctly, and also if it goes through, because sometimes it doesn't move. Is it moving for you?
I can. Yes, no problem.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, great. So I would like to start my presentation by talking a little bit of where we are with respect to NAFTA and how does USMCA come into effect. So just to start with, USMCA is an evolution from the North America Free Trade Agreement, which was in place for 26.5 years. USMCA takes over many of the principles of NAFTA, which have to do with a clear set of rules that offers certainty to investors, producers, exporters, and the business community in the manufacturing, in the services, in the agricultural sector. I think that it's very important to say that USMCA keeps free trade in North America. That is to say, we are in a position of preferential access to our originating goods in North America, and we will not any import tariffs as long as we preserve the originating nature of the goods that we trade. And this is not minor. In a very complex world today, where we are seeing different countries imposing trade restrictions, export bans, import duties, and that really puts Mexico and North America in a very special place, because through this provision in USMCA, we will be able to continue to produce in North America together, maintain the North American factory that has allowed us to find competitiveness. So what we have in USMCA is a set of rules that come from NAFTA, and those NAFTA provisions that are incorporated in USMCA are highlighted here in the red boxes. Basically, we're talking about 24 different chapters that either were updated, modified, or adjusted to reflect the realities of the 21st century economy. And then what you see in the green boxes are the 10 chapters that we were able to include in this negotiation to deepen our integration. These provisions on environmental protection, on labor protection, regarding SMEs, gender, regarding also digital trade and e-commerce, good regulatory practice, anti-corruption practices, will all help us to deepen the nature of the integration that we have in North America. And that, without a question, will build a stronger North America. That does not mean that it will go without work and without effort on the part of the three of us, but it does mean that we are stronger today and we have stronger provisions for deeper integration in North America. So where are we today with respect to NAFTA, and where is USMCA getting us? Why do I talk about a deeper integration? And let me just offer 4 very general aspects in which we can say that we are more integrated under USMCA than what we were under NAFTA. First of all, the provisions that we have related to production and our productive activities in North America will help us to have a stronger regional competitiveness. The competitiveness is the name of the game in this USMCA as it was in NAFTA. And this competitiveness of North America will be pursued and will be accomplished through the different provisions that USMCA contains regarding preferential access, regarding measures related to sanitary and phytosanitary measures and technical barriers to trade. Also, the provisions regarding regulatory coherence will allow us to reduce the costs of doing regulations in North America, but also in enforcing and in complying with regulations in North America. Investment provisions will help to create a region that is far more integrated than we were before, because we have not only provisions that protect investment, but also that ensure that investment will flow freely among the three countries. Mexico is also becoming an important investor in the US and Canada as a result of this integration. So we see that USMCA will help to strengthen North America's competitiveness in the world. A second set of rules that will help us to be more deeply integrated have to do with the inclusive and responsible trade. Those provisions regarding SMEs, gender, are oriented to allow those sectors that have not been fully integrated or have not been able to reap the benefits of USMCA in the same way as other parts of the economy. And it will also allow us to make sure that everyone in North America can reap the benefits of trade and integration. Provisions regarding labor, environment, and anti-corruption will also imply a new way of creating this North America that provides for protection in these areas, labor and environment. And in the anti-corruption provisions, what we are seeing is the will of the three countries to create the best business environment in North America by fighting corruption and by creating the regulatory framework and the laws that are necessary to be able to address this issue. Also, companies are invited to have compliance programs in their own structures in order to be able to show how they can fight these kinds of practices. So these provisions, although they may seem to be very costly and they may seem to be very expansive, I should say that they complement very well with the way in which we are opening and integrating our productive chains in North America, because they will be global supply chains and regional supply chains that will address the social inclusion issues that we all want to see in the kind of North American integration that we want. Now, also, USMCA offers certainty in trade and investment. And this is as a result of the three dispute settlement mechanisms that we have integrated in the agreement. They are related to state, investor state, and trade remedy laws. And this is not a minor issue, because the three countries, the three governments, we have decided that we want to abide by the set of rules. And when we, for some reason or another, move away from our commitments, there are ways in which we can assess whether this is consistent or not with USMCA. And in case it is not, then we have a set of rules and procedures under the dispute settlement mechanisms that will define whether, in fact, there is a violation or not of USMCA. And when there is a violation, there are consequences. So that is, in my opinion, an extremely important way of strengthening competitiveness and of maintaining USMCA in the way the three countries decided to North American integration. And the last but not least has to do with the opportunities that USMCA brings for the 21st century economy. NAFTA did not contain those kinds of provisions because it was negotiated in the early 1990s. NAFTA delivered in terms of what it was expected with respect to increased trade and investment. However, USMCA integrates those provisions that will allow us to move into the 21st century and will allow us to integrate provisions regarding the digital economy, e-trade, very importantly, intellectual property, to the extent that we will guarantee that all of the inventions, creations, innovations that are created in North America will be properly be a boost for innovation in North America for Revolution 4.0, Industrial Revolution 4.0, and also for the development of sectors that will be able to flourish under this kind of protection that also implies sanctions and punishments in case there are infractions to these provisions. And financial services is also a key sector because we will see how we promote the development of the fintech sector, which is a way of making our economy more inclusive. So just to be brief, these are the ways in which we see USMCA deepening integration among the three of us and how we see North America becoming a stronger region as a result of the provisions integrated in USMCA that, as you all know, became effective on July 1st this year. Now, where are we in North America today? And these are some just information that I would like to offer to you with respect to Mexico. And I want to tell you that NAFTA really created a new economy in Mexico. NAFTA allowed Mexico to become integrated in North America, but also it allowed Mexico to modernize its economy, not only from a productive perspective, but also from a legal perspective. Mexico's economy became an open economy with rules and regulations and institutions that support that kind of integration into the North American market. And just to give you a few examples, Mexico created in the early 1990s the Federal Telecommunications Commission that later evolved into the Federal Telecommunications Institute. As a result of NAFTA, we also created the Ministry of Environment and all of the environmental protection framework in Mexico. So Mexico did change as a result of NAFTA, and we know that Mexico will continue to change and improve as a result of USMCA. So Mexico comes into this USMCA with the US and Canada in a situation in which the three of us are producing together for the world. We are a common market, even if we're not. If this is a free trade agreement, it is not a common market in the economic sense or the way we understand different kinds of integrations. But at the end of the day, what we have is a market of almost 500 million. We represent the second largest economy in the world when we consider each of us together. Mexico represents only 5%, but complements very importantly the production sharing in North America. North America represented in 2018 the most important recipient of FDI in the world, with $323 billion coming into the region, and specifically in the case of Mexico, receiving more than $20 billion. In the case of trade, as a region, we represent close to 16% of global trade, and we are the second global exporter in the world. Mexico itself is the seventh largest exporter in the world and the first in Latin America, and we do more than twice the exports of the rest of the region. And in terms of trade, North America, in the three countries among us, in 2019 had a total trade of $1.2 trillion, which represent 20% of the total trade that we do with the world. NAFTA, USMCA, as I said, will continue to make of Mexico and North America a region for investors to develop their own projects. In the case of Mexico, NAFTA became a boost for foreign direct investment. the US and Canada account for more than half of total FDI received by Mexico between 1999 and March of 2020. And as you see in this graph, the US has invested in Mexico more than $277 billion and Canada more than $41 billion. And these investments are in different sectors, from the manufacturing sector to the services and the mining. And this investment is also one of the reasons why we have been able to create this trade. It's a cycle where we have capital investing in Mexico and North America for production for North America that allows trade to happen. And this is how NAFTA and now USMCA will help the region to remain competitive through less restrictions in trade and investment. Now, I would like to point out how Mexico has fared under NAFTA. And in this graph, you see how Mexico's trade with its partners in North America, in the US and Canada, has performed between 1993 and 2019. And this shows that under the agreement, Mexico's trade with the US and Canada grew by 7.5% annually, and the growth rate. And you can see how exports and imports from North America have increased for Mexico, going from 91 billion in 1993 to 601 billion in 2009. So in 2019, Mexico became the US largest trading partner, only after, and followed by Canada and China, getting close to 15% of the market. In the first 5 months of 2020, Canada has surpassed Mexico, and this has been a result of the shutdown of the economy, and obviously as a result of a very unintended consequence of the pandemic, which has forced us to shut down production activities and to shut down also trade. So even in spite of that, Mexico, the US, and Canada continue to be main trading partners among ourselves. And also Mexico became the US top trading partner in agricultural products. In 2019, the US and Mexico traded more than $47.5 billion in agricultural goods, where Mexico is also the most important export market for a number of products in the US, like corn, beans, or pork. Mexico is also a key market for US states exports. In this map, you can see that Mexico is the largest export market for 7 US states along the border of the United States, also Nebraska and Kansas. Mexico is the second largest export market for 19 US states and the third largest for 3 US states, among which there is Florida. So for Florida, Mexico is the third largest export market. We have a strong relationship. NAFTA and Mexico's trade with Florida support more than 300,000 jobs. And as Jonathan mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, our trade is close to more than $10 billion, with 3.3 billion exports to Mexico, which account for 5.9% of Florida's total exports to the world, and 6.9 billion in imports from Mexico, which account for 8.5% of Florida's total imports. This trade also represents a shared production to increase competitiveness in sectors such as automobiles, vehicle production, auto parts, electronics, and alike. And this is also reflected in the kind of trade that we're doing between Florida and Mexico, as you can see in these tables. You see that the products that we trade together are basically showing the kind of intra-trade and intra-industry trade and intra-firm trade in sectors such as automobiles, electronics, household appliances, and the agricultural sector. Trade with Mexico also has created business opportunities for the Miami metro area. We know that the $2.2 billion in exports go through Miami's metropolitan area. 1.4 billion trade is done by air, and more than 50,000 vehicles traded with Mexico are done through the Port Everglades in 2019. So why is in Mexico, and why is Mexico a good opportunity for people in the business community in Miami, people who are looking on how to take advantage of USMCA and where are the opportunities? As you can see, $10 billion in trade is around 2% of the total trade that the US and Mexico do. However, we think that there are many more opportunities for the business community in Florida and specifically in Miami to look into Mexico. And let me offer you a number of reasons why to look into Mexico. Mexico today is the 7th largest exporter in the world and the first in Latin America. As I said at the beginning, this has allowed us to become a trading nation, a nation that is deeply integrated into global value chains, and also an economy whose economy depends largely on the good performance of international trade. So USMCA and our other 12 free trade agreements with 48 countries, that makes a total of 13 FTAs with 50 countries, including USMCA, connect the Mexican economy to a market of more than 1.3 billion potential consumers, and that represents 60% of world GDP. And I can tell you that when companies make their business decision, their investment decision to establish in Mexico, this is one of the reasons why they pick Mexico to develop their businesses. Mexico also offers a solid infrastructure and logistics network. According to the World Economic Forum, Mexico ranks among the top 30% countries with the best transportation infrastructure. And that is supported by a network of roads that includes 172,000 kilometers. And this is also supporting our trade because more than 60% of our total exports move by roads and through land transportation means. We also have 27,000 kilometers of railway tracks that move 13% of our total exports. We have 117 ports that move close to 20% of our exports, and 76 airports, 64 international, 12 national, that move close to 5% of our total exports. So we do have a logistics network that allows us to move efficiently from Mexico to North America, but also to the world. And we also have low shipping costs compared to, for example, China. Our costs are $9 per square meter compared to 140 square meters from China. With respect to maritime days to selected destination, from Mexico, we have 5 days to New York compared to 32 from China, 4 days to LA, 16 days to Rotterdam, and 19 days to Yokohama. So it obviously depends on where we're located, but we do have access to main business hubs in the world in a very effective and competitive way. And also we have more than 50 ports of entry between the US and Mexico, not only at the border, but also through sea and air transportation. In addition to that, Mexico offers a diverse and innovative industrial platform. More than 2/3 of our exports are in high complexity sectors. So Mexico ranks today as the 19th most complex economy. And you can see here that we are producing in sectors such as vehicles, machinery, electronics, agriculture, services, minerals, textiles, chemicals, metals, stone. And the relevance of our level of complexity is that this will allow Mexico to attract new sectors and develop new processes that allow us to integrate efficiently into innovation, into value-added sectors. So this is unique also for Mexico. Mexico has been able to develop a manufacturing platform that boasts both technology and also production in medium and high value-added we have been able to create the productive network as a result of investments that Mexico has attracted and as a result of the networks and clusters that we have been able to develop in a number of sectors throughout the country. Today, Mexico leads in manufacturing production. We are the 6th largest world producer of vehicles, and we are the 4th exporter worldwide. We have surpassed South Korea. We are the 6th largest supplier of aircraft parts to the US, the 6th largest exporter of information technology products and services, the 7th largest exporter when we exclude trade within the European Union. We rank as the 13th recipient of FDI and the 2nd in Latin America, only after Brazil. And we are the 8th largest exporter of food products and becoming more competitive. We also have a fast-growing internet connectivity and broadband access. Mexico is 3rd in mobile broadband subscriptions within the OECD countries, only after the US and Japan. We have a 74% mobile penetration rate, a 17% in the past 5 years, and 92 million mobile broadband subscribers. This opens a huge opportunity to develop digital economy and e-commerce based businesses in North America and in Mexico specifically. Mexico is growing faster than any other country in Latin America in the e-commerce sector. We know that we are still at the beginning of the development of the sector. The sector is beyond mature, and we are creating in Mexico the proper legal and policy framework in order for the digital economy and the e-commerce to flourish. And that, coupled with the kind of provisions that we have in USMCA, I think that offers fantastic opportunities for the business community in Miami and in Florida to explore developing their businesses in North America through Mexico. And this is nicely coupled with the fact that we also have a young, competitive, and skilled workforce. As you can see in this graph, Mexico's population on average, the active population age group that is most dominant is the one between 30 and 49 years old. Mexico is a young country. On average, our population averages 27 years old. In the economically active population, close to half is in this rank between 30 and 49 years old. And also very important, in Mexico, out of all of the college graduates every year, 17% come from engineering. That compares very favorably with other countries like India, Brazil, or South Africa in the emerging economies. And that puts us also in a very privileged position to be able to offer the kind of skilled labor force that the digital economy and the Industrial Revolution 4.0 requires. Now, I would like to conclude my presentation by presenting a few opportunities that we have identified that are contained in the USMCA, but that are supported by Mexico's Mexico's productive infrastructure. I have already shown you where are our strengths, and those strengths combine very nicely with some of the provisions that are integrated in USMCA. There are stricter rules of origin for the automotive sector. We know that this is a challenge because it will be more difficult for all companies to comply and fulfill with all of the requirements that are many. However, we also see the opportunity here. We see the opportunity in creating more companies that will be able to be part of the supply chain in North America. We have to find ways in which we can support OEMs to be able to fulfill the new requirements that have to do with the 75% of regional value content, 40% of labor value content, as well as steel, aluminum, and essential auto parts. So we know that also in the steel sector, we can attract more investments into the region and hopefully into Mexico to be able to ensure that the auto sector complies with the new rules of origin of 70%. We also see new opportunities developing in the digital economy, in the digital space, not only to support the development of the new economy of the 21st century, but also this will help to have a more competitive manufacturing sector and a more competitive agricultural sector. E-commerce, without a question, is a great opportunity for all of us, given the provisions that are contained in USMCA. I also see opportunities with a more inclusive trade. All in Mexico, North America will have our labor laws, our environmental laws, anti-corruption provisions. However, this will create a better quality in terms of the companies that will participate in North America. And last but not least, I think that USMCA also opens opportunities to face COVID-19. We have been very proactive working with the US and the Canadian governments in exchanging information, in finding ways to protect and also to allow our global value chains to remain open in spite of very challenging times. We have been able to find or to try to find balances between the very important and the key and most important priority, which is the health aspect of this pandemic, saving lives, not putting anybody at risk, while at the same time maintaining the effective operation of our North American value chains. And I think this is an opportunity for us to see how we can build resilient value chains and how we can shorten supply chains and how we can build a more resilient North America with the USMCA provisions. We are working to define protocols and conditions that must be met to allow transition towards reopening. And we think that technology has been a very, very important tool to make us, to help us move through this time. USMCA will be a key factor in strengthening the production integration of North America, to incorporate more value added in the region, and to boost new regional value chains to replace imports from outside the region. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today, and then we'll be very happy to continue the dialogue with you. And I want also to invite you to be part of the USMCA success story that we will be building as a result of this integration that we decided to continue with USMCA. Thank you, Jonathan.
Well, thank you very much, Undersecretary de la Mora, for your presentation. Now we can move on with the agenda and start with the Q&A session. We received dozens of questions. Thank you for your interest and for sending your questions in advance. It helped us to better organize this session. And due to the time we have available, it is difficult to answer all of them. Nevertheless, we will send a written response to each one of them by the same email that we received them. So moving on to the first question. How will COVID-19 affect Mexico and US trade flows? Thank you.
Okay. Well, COVID-19 is already affecting trade flows between Mexico, the US, and Canada, as I mentioned during the presentation, and this is evidently a result of the shutdown that we have had to experience to be able to address the health question. I think that just the shutdown of production, the shutdown of activity has had a very important impact in terms of production, demand, supply. However, I also think that once we retake activities, which has been the case, for example, in the auto sector and also the aerospace sector, we will be able to see that supply chains in North America will continue to operate. The pandemic has made it very clear and very evident the kind of integration that we have built in more than 26 and a half years of NAFTA and how we can continue to strengthen those value chains. And I would say that the most important thing about USMCA is that it continues to build the bridges between the three of us to continue to produce in North America. USMCA does not contain specific provisions to address this kind of is a number of provisions that address competitiveness, that address global value chains, that address how to continue to produce jointly. And I think that COVID-19 has made it clear that only through collaboration, communication, dialogue, and coordination, we will be able to overcome this challenge and at the same time to come out of this in a stronger way. So we know that all of us are suffering, and we know also that USMCA will be a powerful tool to be in a better shape in the post-COVID world. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister de la Mora. The following question is the following. Are there new opportunities in the USMCA for companies offering digital services?
Thank you for your question. That's a very good question. That's a key area, which I believe has huge potential to create business opportunities in North America. And let me just talk about 3 provisions that are in USMCA that I believe will open business opportunities for digital trade in North America, but more specifically for the Miami community in North America and as it relates to its business opportunities in Mexico. There is a ban on data localization. This will make it easier for companies in North America to offer their services across the region, regardless of their location. We know that this will help to reduce infrastructure costs and other kinds of sunk costs. So this is something to take into consideration. In addition to that, USMCA provides for 0 duties or fees for products. That is to say, software, music, games, multimedia, ebooks, anything that can be traded on the internet will be free of any kinds of duties or taxes. And we think that will help to boost the digital economy in North America. It will offer more access. Protections also against disclosure of software source code and algorithms to import, distribute, sell, or use software will also give certainty to businesses and promote innovation. And last but not least, it is extremely important to bear in mind that in Mexico we have changed our intellectual property protection. We just passed in Congress the new intellectual property laws that reflect very clearly all of our USMCA provisions. And that will enhance the environment for doing business in Mexico to the extent that we have protections for innovations, patent protection, trademarks, etc. And we also have very clearly established the sanctions that will be applied when infringement takes place. So that is also going to help, I think, develop a stronger digital economy in North America and will make businesses see Mexico as a very attractive place to develop business. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is the new schedule to implement the recent alternative transition regime?
Thank you. This alternative transition regime is basically a way of offering some flexibility to factories, not only light vehicles, but also heavy trucks. The intent of this regional alternative staging regime has to do with the fact that the new requirements for compliance of origin in North America are many, and many companies are finding that they need longer periods of time to be able to comply with them. So this alternative staging regime offers companies longer periods of time instead of 3 years, which is the standard transition that we have in USMCA, to have 2 more years, probably 5 years, or they may be able to get more if they need to, as long as they can explain how they intend to develop their regional supply chain, how they intend to procure more from North America, and how they intend to build a stronger supply chain in North America. So this is only intended for those companies in the original equipment manufacturing in the three countries, in Mexico, the US, and Canada. And this is a built-in flexibility that was already thought of when USMCA was negotiated between 2017 and 2018. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We still have time for a couple of questions, if you agree.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. And the question is related to the recent free trade agreement signed between the European Union and Mexico in April. And it says, how can Florida and Miami in particular could benefit from the USMCA and the new European Union-Mexico Free Trade Agreement? Thank you.
Thank you, Gerardo. That's right. In April, late April, Secretary Marquez, our Secretary of Economy, and Trade Commissioner, Mr. Phil Hogan, concluded the technical negotiation on the free trade agreement between Mexico and the EU, which is part of a larger agreement that also includes a political dimension and a cooperation dimension. So we hope to be able to get this agreement signed by the two parties and then submitted to Parliament in the EU and the Senate here in Mexico in 2021. The USMCA and the Mexico-EU Free Trade Agreement that we just modernized contain provisions that make Mexico an ideal partner for the two most important trading nations, or actors, I should say, in the world, to the extent that we include provisions that not only liberalize trade in goods and services, but also investments, and includes provisions regarding the modern economy, the digital economy. So Mexico is ideally positioned because we have preferential access, a modernized set of rules with respect to regulations, with respect to dispute settlement mechanisms, with respect to all aspects of the new economy, the new digital economy. And unlike the US and the EU, we do have free trade agreements. So Mexico is from where access the US market under preferential conditions, access the EU under preferential conditions, but also Mexico has been able to create this legal framework that will make sure that all of the regulations are done in such a way that they reduce costs to business. So I do think that having modernized our agreement with the EU and having USMCA makes Mexico an ideal partner for businesses that want to look not only into North America, but also to the EU. Thank you.
Thank you, Undersecretary de la Mora. And the next question is, what new opportunities can small, medium-sized enterprises expect from the USMCA entry into force?
That's a very important question for us, and that's one of the main areas of opportunities that we see. USMCA contains a chapter specifically tailored to the needs of SMEs in the region. In Mexico, we have more than 95% of our businesses are SMEs. And if we see the standard that applies in the US and Canada as they define SMEs, I think that Mexico would fall into the 99%. So we also have the opportunity because USMCA provides for the creation not only of a committee, but also of a dialogue in which we will receive recommendations from different associations, academia, clusters that can tell us how we can help them provide for opportunities for small and medium-sized companies to be part of the regional value chain. It is important to bear in mind that not all SMEs should consider or need to consider direct export activities. They should consider being part of the supply chain, and that is a very important opportunity there. In addition to being direct or indirect exporters, USMCA democratizes trade to the extent that it opens a new venue for SMEs to participate in the regional market through e-commerce and through the digital economy. E-commerce, without a question, is an ideal way for companies at the local level to access the regional market, regional customers that they don't have right now. For example, when exporting into the US from Mexico, companies will not face duties or tariffs or any taxes up to $800. To Mexico, it's up to $117. And after $40, they have to pay only the sales tax. In addition to that, there is also a threshold of $2,500 where companies do not need to provide for certification of origin. And also in USMCA, we have provisions that intend to facilitate and expedite the customs procedures for SMEs to reduce costs and to make commerce more effective. So my last comment would be that we as governments have also committed to creating an internet site so that we can offer SMEs the opportunity of finding in one place, a one-stop shop on internet, of where they can find all the information that they need in order to be able to comply with USMCA, and at the same time find business opportunities, which I know Gerardo in the RTC is also working to create those opportunities and also to offer information. We believe that information is key to be able to make business decisions, and we are trying to offer as much information and as precise as possible for the business community. And this is one of the reasons why we're having this webinar, because we want to make sure that everybody who's interested in doing business with Mexico knows exactly how to do business and knows exactly that there's no mystery. It's only finding the right information to be able to take advantage of this agreement. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much to Vice Minister Luz Maria de la Mora for her presentation. Thank you to General Counsel Jonathan Chait for organizing this webinar. Thank you all for your participation. We hope this webinar is useful and productive for you to do business with Mexico and take advantage of the benefits of the USMCA. If you have any further question, any comment, any request, please contact us. We will be happy to assist you. With this, we finish our webinar and we thank you all. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Great seeing you.
Same here. Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.
Pues mira, estuvo mejor este webinar que vimos.